Ba-dum, bum, bum. Windy pig, oh, windy, 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 windy pig.
Welcome back to Windy's Garagager. How are you? I'm fine. So I just wanted to do a little video on timing this motor, because I did mention it before in the other timing video, that I would show you how to use one of these dial gauges to do it. So that's what we're going to do. I've put this back together, so I've replaced the condenser on it, on the plate. That one tests very differently to the one I've got, so I'm going to assume the old one is fucked. We'll find out soon. But you'd think a new one would be fine. Put the carburetor back on, got all the cables back in place, so this is almost ready to go back on again. I'm just going to do the timing here on the bench. First thing to do is set the points gap. Now I don't know how well, it's not going to help if I put my head in there, is it? But I've got a light down here. I've got the camera in. I'm hoping you'll be able to see this, but the first thing you're supposed to do is set the points gap. And that is, now let me see if I can point at it with something. I'm going to try and get out of the light. So, there's your points through there. I really hope you can see this in the camera. Let me just lift the camera a little bit. I'm not sure it's high enough. Let me stick it on here. Let's try it. Hopefully that'll do you. You'll be able to see it there. So there's your points. And as you turn this, you'll see they open. So they're open now fully. Once they're open fully, you get to your feeler gauges. You get your book. You find the technical specs in the back, or in the front, or in whatever page they're on. Come on, this book is filthy, by the way. It's been, I've used it. I've had this book a couple of years, and it was old. It was the second time when I got it. And you can find your contact gap, 0.35 to 0.55 mil. So we can set it somewhere in there. Now I did check it before I got the video going, and it was already about 0.45. But I'll show you how you check it. I'm not going to adjust. I'll show you how to check it and adjust it. So you get your feeler gauges out. You find the one you want. So let's go somewhere in the middle. Let's go 0.45. So I'm pretty sure that will go in. And like you say, it's quite awkward in here, but you've got to work in so that your feeler gauge gets between your points. And when it's the right gap, what you feel is this feeler gauge just dragging. So it's not like it's tightly held. That's probably a bit. So that's slightly too tight because it's sort of holding the feeler gauge. So it's a little bit narrower than that. Let's go 0.43. 0.43. Trying to start getting in the way of the picture. So that goes in there nicely. And it isn't grabbed on, so that's good. So that's 0.43-ish. Now, if it wasn't in spec, what you need to do is, you can see, I hope you can see, there is this little adjuster, this little locking screw here, and then just next to it is a little plate. What it looks like, in case you can't see it in that camera, I'm pretty sure you can. What it looks like is you've got the points there that are currently open, and this plate is an odd shape like this. You've got your adjusting screw. There's a little notch in it like this, and there's a corresponding notch here in the back plate. So that's your points plate there, and that's attached to this arm here. This arm's sort of that's the one that opens. That's the one that opens and closes. This is the arm that moves, but this static side on the actual plate isn't quite static. It's fixed through this locking screw, and all you do is you just put the flat blade of your screwdriver in between these 2 points. So that's the flat blade of your screwdriver, and you can just turn that way or that way to move that way or back that way again. It's I'm hoping you can see on the camera. It's difficult to describe, but it's basically a little plate, and you just get a little flat screwdriver in there. So you loosen off, and don't go really loose on your adjuster screw for your back plate. Just enough that you can then move the plate adjuster and just tweak it a tiny little bit. I'm not going to move it because it's fine as it is. 4.43. It's in the middle of the spec. You know, I'm sure someone will tell me I'm wrong, and I should be doing it at the long end of the spec or whatever. But that's fine for now. So that's half of it. The second thing to do is to make it so the points open at the right time, and that is where this little dial gauge comes in. So I'll show you how it goes in. First, we'll get that spark plug out. After all, I did tell some people this, but I made a mistake. I put it all back together again. I put the new piston and rings in, and I turned it over by hand. I put a spark plug on. I turned the engine over by hand, and it stopped just halfway along, and dunk, turned it back the other way. Got about the same distance back in the other direction, and stopped again. And I was panicking. I was like, "Oh God, what have I done? Have I managed to to do something when I put it back together again and lock the engine up?" But it turned out that I really am just a moron, and I put the wrong spark plug in. So it should be one of these 7HSs, and I'd put in a 6ES, and as you can see, that went a bit further into the bore, and it stopped. But that's a good lesson in not everyone gets everything right the first time, but also a good lesson in remembering to turn everything over by hand first. Never just fire it in and fire it up on your starter motor, or however you kick it over, whatever you're going to do, or always turn it over by hand first. Good 2 or 3 revolutions, just to give yourself a good idea. Right, so that goes in there. That just goes in your spark plug gap. We've screwed the extension plate on the bottom of our hoodly doodly, so that drops in there. And you should undo that. So that needs to be held in place. And then as you turn it over, you should, I'm hoping you can see this on this camera. Yeah, you should be able to. As you turn the engine over, you'll see it touches that, gets up to a point. Can't go any further, so that's too tight. Let's get this off a little bit. Can we get there? That'll work. Oh, just pushed it out. Maybe our rod's too long for this motor. Oh, could well be. That'd be annoying, wouldn't it? Let's wind this back out then a little bit. It's not ideal because you'll get some movement in this now, but we're not working in close enough fractions for it to be too much of a worry. Let's try that. Right, let's find top. So what you do then is you then find the point where you're at top dead center. So you roll forwards. So that's there. What you do then is you set this to 0 on that. That's our 0. Can I go any tighter on this? I'll get this in a bit further really so it doesn't move. No, it's no good, is it? And this isn't ideal because there's some movement in this, you see, and you've got a few degrees of deflection there, but hopefully it won't move. No, it looks like it'll be alright. So let's find top dead center again. It's there. Set that to 0. 0. And then we just check our technical specs again. And I can't remember what it is. 1.8 to 2.2 millimeters before top dead center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim for 2 mil before top dead center for these points to open. Now I haven't actually got a points tester here with me, a timing light. Nor unfortunately have I got any cigarette papers. I don't think, because that was how we used to do it. Was with a fag paper. I think I've thrown my fag papers away over the years. I quit smoking a long time ago, so we're gonna have to do it by eye, which is not ideal. I might try and use my little rig. It has worked in the past because it makes a slightly different noise depending on what we're doing. Let's find if that works. Shall we? Let's see if we can get a slightly different tone out of this machine when the points open and close, and then at least we can do that. So we'll attach this to the wire coming out of our coil. Touch that onto earth somewhere. What's a good earth? That'll do. That little nub in there. Now, points are open. Oh, well done, mate. Let's put it somewhere else, otherwise it's not getting knocked. Let's put it on this nub in this side, right? There we go. Don't know if it comes up. I don't know if it comes out on the camera, but you've got a slightly different noise. There, see that? But I can hear it, and that is the noise of the points opening and closing, I believe. It is. That's closed. Yeah, so we can hear that, good. So we can do it like that. It's not the best way to do it. Normally, do a timing light and you'd see it go off. But I haven't got it with me. I've lent it to somebody, I think. Or I've lost it, or it's in a box under the bench. But yeah, so we'll go back to top dead center, which is there, 1 0. And for before top dead center means you've got to run the engine backwards between 1.8 and 2.2 mil. Sorry about that. One of the cameras ran out of battery, which was less than ideal. So yeah, so we know where were we? Back to top dead center on here now. So we know we've got the noise that makes the right noise when the points open and close. So we know when the points are going to open. Our gauge shows this central dial is millimeters, so 1 to 10, and the outer dial is, so that's a millimeter. Oh, that's 0.1 of a millimeter, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. So, well, the other way around, but we're running backwards, so it goes the way. But each small line is 0.01, each long line is a millimeter. Is 0.1 of a millimeter, and then each full revolution is a millimeter. So we need to go 2 full revolutions backwards to be in the middle of our spec. If the spec is 1.8 to 2.2, we're going to run right at 1.8. I might then change that down the line because this is now quite heavily ported, high compression head and everything. It might pay to have the ignition more advanced, but that'll be down the line. Let's get it set to book specs. So at least we can get it running first, and then we'll tune it later. So we want to go, like I said, 2 full revolutions. So there is 1. There is 2. That's 2 millimeters, and that's one of the points to open. So if I now hook my thing on, if I keep going till it stops. So it's there. That's way off. So at the moment, so what we need to do is eye this up a little bit. Fortunately, it's going to be difficult to show you how to do that because it's a funny angle to work from. But I'll try and keep my head out of the way as much as I can. And hopefully that camera will catch a bit of what I'm doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the plate. So it's obviously, so let's listen to that again. So okay, it's way advanced. So we've got to push this plate around a bit further. So what you do to move the plate, and again you've got to work in here. There's 3 screws. 1, 2. There's a 3rd one. Can't really see it down here. It's the problem with these old motors. You've got to work inside the plate, which is inside the. You've got to work through the gaps in the bloody thing. Right. Let's push that plate round. Right. Let's go all the way that way. It's now retired all the way it can go. See how that comes on. And it really is trial and error at this point. So we've got fine top dead. Put our little machinery on. It's a very annoying noise. So we go back. 1 mil. 2. 3. So it's 3 mil before top dead center. I can't go any further. Have I gone the wrong way? Maybe I've gone the wrong way, lads. Let's try it again. Come on, bastard. it's 1, 2, 2.5 or 2.4. So it's still too advanced. Can't get this plate any further around, I don't think. Let's see if we can have a look at this. Back in the mo. Right, took a few tries, but now, as you can see, I don't know if you, hopefully you can hear this. So that's where it changes, and then we go. So it's just after the 0, 1 full rotation, and then a second full rotation, and we go back again. So that's 2 mil before top dead center, which is spot on. So we'll leave that at that. So that's that set. We're just going to tighten all the little back nut. We'll just tighten all the plate screws up, just a touch, just to make sure everything's nice and tight. I did tighten them down already once, but that's fine. And that's that. So it's a simple process. I say simple process. It's a fucking involved process. But you set your points gap. I did actually show it when I was down in the end. I did mine down to 0.3 in the end. But anyway, you get your points gap. Then you do your find your top of the center and go run backwards the motor until you end up with it open where you want it to open. And these little dial gauges are quite simple to use. Just roll in instead of a spark plug. So that's handy. So this is now, once I've sorted the wiring out, ready to go back on the bike. So next video, hopefully, should be the engine back on the motorbike. Thanks for watching again, and I'll speak to you next time.
Ba-dum, bum, bum. Windy pig, oh, windy, 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 windy pig, oh, windy, windy.